Welcome everyone to PTE Plus online lessons. Today our topic is going to be about repeat sentences. So repeat sentences might seem like it's something quite simple for us to do, and for a lot of students who haven't studied the PTE exams, they'll think that repeat sentence is mostly just about memory, about how good your working memory is. A lot of students will be having this attitude where it's like, oh, I can't remember it. No matter what I do, I can't remember every single word, and as a result, I'm just not going to get a high mark. Is that the case? So today we're going to be looking at what repeat sentence is about. We're going to be looking at techniques for figuring out how to maximize our marks for repeat sentence. We're going to be talking about the different requirements that the repeat sentence is looking for. And it's not just working memory that repeat sentence looks at, but it's so much more than that. And we're going to be looking at different ways of practicing our repeat sentence to maximize our marks. And for those of you who haven't taken the repeat sentence test or the PTE exam at all, we're going to be talking about what repeat sentence is, and we're going to give you a small introduction to the topic. So let's start things off by watching this clip here.
Audio finishes. Microphone opens. There is no short tone, so speak into the microphone immediately and repeat exactly what you heard.
It's a good idea to begin the session with a review of the session.
See, the question type is just as simple as it appears. There are no tricks to it. So, what exactly are we looking for in terms of content? Let's have a look at the official PTE guideline. For each question in this section, there will be a total of 13 marks allocated, of which 3 will belong in the content section. So here, to get all 3 marks, you'll need to have all words in the correct sequence. So you need to have every single word and you need to have them all in the correct order that appears in the model sentence. So obviously 3 would be nearly impossible for any of us to achieve, because if you just get one sort of mistake, or if you sort of have, one replacement, one omission, or you just insert a random word, then you're not going to be able to get 3. So the interesting part comes here at number 2. For number 2, if you have at least 50% of all the words in the response correct, then you'll be able to get 2 marks. So that's 50% of all words, correct words, and at least 50% of them in the correct order. And then obviously 1 is when you get less than 50% of the correct words, and 0 is for almost nothing in the response. So content is important, but it only makes up 3 marks out of the 13. So what is the other 10 marks made out of? For those of you who took the read aloud section on PTE Plus Online, you might remember that we have 10 divided like this: 5 for pronunciation and 5 for fluency. Because we've already went over pronunciation and fluency in detail in the past, I'll quickly go over the key concepts of each here now. Remember, pronunciation is about sentence stress and word stress. So it'd be pronunciation, and it's about pronouncing each syllable with clarity. So instead of something like pronunciation, it'd be pronunciation, making sure everything's pronounced clearly and with the correct stress. And fluency is just about connecting your words up, being able to chunk it into meaningful chunks, and being able to have an acceptable speed and connected reading. So instead of words like oral fluency, be oral fluency, connecting it up like that. So here, let's have a look at an example. The school library will be closed for cleaning next week. In this sentence, we have 3 students responding. Student 1 can't remember the start, he can only remember the end, so he'll be saying something like, it'll be closed for cleaning next week. The second student will be saying, the school library will be closed, forgot the rest, that's fine. The last student will be saying, the school library closed for cleaning week. So obviously the last one sounds the weirdest, right? Because it's sort of cut up and it's disjointed, it doesn't really make sense as much as the others. So out of these 3 students, which student do you think will get the best mark? Yep, it's student number 3. Why is that? It's because student number 3 has the closest length in terms of the official passage. And the second reason is that he has similar sort of phrasing. He's broken up into similar chunks with the official answer. You can see here that this sort of sentence can be broken up into, correctly speaking, 2 different phrases. The school library will be closed for cleaning next week. So school library will be closed will be 1, for cleaning next week is 2. So under this circumstance, we have in our answer here, the school library closed for cleaning next week. We've still got 2 phrases. We've maintained the same amount of phrases. So you can see here, what we're sort of looking for in these answers, right? All of these answers will be getting 2 for content marks, but number 3 will be the best option for us to use. So remember, there are very distinct ways for us to get high marks in repeat sentence, and there are very distinct practice methods which we have to follow in order to get the highest marks. And there are definitely sort of responses that the machine doesn't like and responses that we need to definitely avoid. For example, the original sentence might be like, the school library will be closed for cleaning next week. But the student might read it like, the school library will be closed for cleaning next week. And they might think to themselves, wow, I did so well. I was able to memorize every single word. But in fact, that sort of answer is exactly what the machine isn't looking for. And that's exactly like a perfect example of what would be a low score in the repeat sentence sample. The first thing we need to do is to listen to the sentence with several different phrases in mind. So don't try to listen to it as a whole sentence. Don't try to listen to it as each individual word, but instead listen to it as individual phrases. And the key here is individual phrases, and something we're going to be talking about in later lessons. The second thing for us to do is try to understand and remember the phrases. So remember, the key here is to remember individual phrases. Don't try to remember words and don't try to remember the whole sentence, but instead remember the individual phrases, and that's really going to be key later on. After we do that, we have to try to reconstruct the sentence in our mind. So we've got all this information, we've got all the phrases, we've got all the words, we've got all the stress, all the intonation. Now we're putting it together in our mind before we're repeating it, and finally we repeat the sentence and copying the stress and intonation. So try to keep it as similar to the original sentence as you can, with the same sort of stress in the same locations and same sort of intonation and inflection and same sort of tone that the original speaker has in the sentence. So what does all of this look like in conjunction? Let's have a look. Is it about remembering and repeating yourself? No. It's about understanding and being able to express yourself in the exam. So if we're just to remember and repeat something, that would be a pure test of our working memory. And like we said before, that's not what the PTE exam is about. Instead, it's testing your ability to be able to understand. So it's a bit of listening and your ability to express yourself naturally. And it's looking at whether or not in your natural expression, you have the ability to copy intonation, stress, and phrases. So it's still a test of your oral speaking English abilities. So here are some common problems that students face in the repeat sentence category of the PTE test. First of all, like we said, a lot of students will think it's to do with your short-term memory. In reality, it's not. But there is obviously an aspect and component to it where you do have to sort of try to memorize the content. And there are some simple techniques to help you overcome this and be able to achieve maximum marks. And that's something we're going to be dealing with in the later lessons, how to memorize the content. The second thing that a lot of students face in terms of the repeat sentence part is organizing the sentence. So this deals with fluency. For the students who are able to remember every single word, they repeat it word by word, organizing the sentence instead of thinking about the fluency and trying to copy the original sentence. So that's an issue a lot of students have too. And finally, it's sentence stress. So sentence stress is similar to word stress. Essentially, it's being able to highlight the key words in a sentence and not having the same sort of tone and same sort of stress on every single word. Now, I'm going to give you 3 simple facts that you need to know about repeat sentence before your actual examination. First of all, repeat sentence has a great impact on one's listening score. So for example, if you're getting just say 40-50 in your speaking marks, there is no way you're going to be getting 79 in your listening score. So even if you sort of treat every single listening question perfectly, there's still no way for you to achieve that sort of score. For a lot of students who aim to get 79, if you are unable to treat the repeat sentence question type well, then there's almost no way for you to get a perfect listening score. You might be 5 to 10 marks off still. The second point is that repeat sentence is in fact worth the most marks in PTE speaking. So I've talked to a lot of students, and a lot of students will tell me, is it described image that's worth the most marks? Is it retell lecture? In reality, no. Describe image and retell lecture added up sort of equals repeat sentence on its own. So repeat sentence is the largest amount of marks you can possibly get in the exam. So that's important to understand before you go into the exam. And secondly, you need to understand that repeat sentence goes by really quickly because each sort of question is worth 13 marks. For the read aloud section, each question is 10 marks and that takes like 40 seconds. But repeat sentence can go by so quickly, and if you just sort of make one mistake, one question, bam, that's 13 marks gone. The final point that I want to reiterate is that one can be trained to maximize your score in the repeat sentence section. What this means is that there is an easily repeatable sort of technique that you can use for repeat sentences in order to get a consistently good score. And these sort of techniques are what we're going to be discussing in our later lessons. And we've got lots of students who've consistently did poorly in repeat sentences only to take our courses and then immediately improve their score. So that's something we're definitely going to be talking about in our later sessions. So we're going to be talking about, is repeat sentence important at all? We're also going to be talking about whether or not the content is important. We're going to be discussing, is our short-term memory important? Doesn't everyone have sort of a similar working memory? And just remember, the PTE exam isn't really about testing your memory, rather it's about your English abilities and as well as your skills and your understanding for the exam. We're also going to be talking about how we can practice for the repeat sentence section. And finally, we're going to be discussing, what does an acceptable answer look like? And what does a perfect 79 answer look like? Do we need to get all three of those content marks? Do we need every single word and in the correct order to get 79 or 90? The answer is no, it's not that. We need an acceptable answer. We need an answer that the machine thinks is going to be worthy of a high mark. And that's what we're going to be talking about in our later sessions. So before you leave today, I want to reiterate one thing. Repeat sentence is the most important section in PTE speaking, and it has a high impact on your PTE listening score as well. Okay, so I look forward to seeing you soon in the next PTE Plus online lesson. Thank you for joining me today.